Hi, my name is Chris Bosley. I live in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, and I've been living here for quite some time. I live in a building majority owned by the Anglican Church. I've lived here for about 4 years, a little over 4 years, since 2013. So anyways, today is the 11th of August, 2017, and the time is 12:40. Today I wanted to make a screencast about the Anglican Church. I wanted to talk about harassment, corruption, um, abuse, computer crimes, and other things that are related. But today I mainly wanted to talk about um, uh, about uh, a threat that was made toward me some time ago. It was made by a person that has a relationship with the Anglican Church. So I see um, the visual audio is out of sync, so I hope it's going to be okay for this video. But anyways, so like I said, I've lived here since about 2013, and the Anglicans have, since we moved in, since day one, have exercised and actively engaged in harassment against us. Like our car, since day one, was getting scratched. We were given very plain hints and even, direct statements. Like, it would be nice. Some people are better off living somewhere else. Some people would be more happy living somewhere else. One student who works in Sydney Diocese, who was a student here at the time, told us that. So this building, majority owned by the Anglican Church, and is used to house more theological Bible college students. He was a student, and now he has a job, and he made a direct statement to me. So this has been saying, well, maybe some people would be happy living somewhere else. Now, of course, this is a passive-aggressive statement, and this is par for the course for the Anglicans. They're passive-aggressive people in all the ones that I've noticed. So I think that they use these statements and they're carefully articulated so that they can deny any um, harm done, and they can say, oh no, I never meant that, but it's a loaded statement, so there is insinuation and implication. There's undercurrents of hostility, and the statement basically is, well, you should leave, we want you to go. And many of the students showed the same thing by their behavior and by their actions. One of the females, her husband has gotten a job. One of the females, she stood outside my door, pretending to talk. Well, she was visiting a friend next door, who I think was accessing our computers, and she stood outside and she said, "Yeah, we're working on getting rid of this Yahoo, and I think we almost got it. We almost got it done. I think the guy will be gone pretty soon, and so that'll make us all happy." So I mean, it's a loaded statement, and whether or not she was actually talking on her phone to someone, what difference does it make? But it's a statement that sounds, if I were to say it was directed towards me, well, then they could turn around and say, no, no, you're confused. It has nothing to do with you. I was talking to, somebody about my daughter's soccer team, or some stupid thing like that. But then they can turn around, and if I make a statement about it, then they can turn around and say, well, you're a suspicious person, aren't you? And it's things like that that have been happening since I moved here. They create situations, and then they hope you react to them, and then they use it as a slur against your character. So for example, they will uh, come and scratch on the door, or come and flick the door, and then you go to your window and look, and there's somebody looking at your window, and then they say, why are you always looking out your window? You're very suspicious. Or they'll they have keys to the unit. They had keys to the unit, and they would take the key, put it in the screen door, and unlock the screen door, and did it all the time. And then they would have one of the students come by shaking the keys, and then I would look out, and then the guy would turn. I'd look out the window or open the door and wonder who's shaking their keys by my door, and then they'd be like, "Oh, hey Chris, how you doing? How's it going?" And then they would give you this passive aggressive grin. things like this happen all the time. And then they turn around and they say, wow, you're suspicious. Like, for example, I uploaded a video about the property manager and was with his number one thug, goon slash worker slash utility guy. And this guy was at my window, and then he stood at my window for like 3 minutes, and then he went to my door, and then he rubbed his butt against my door, and then he, you know, you know, uh, screwed around with my handle, rattled my handle, and then he shook the tree. It was just basically harassment. Basically, it was, well, not basically harassment. It was harassment, and the property manager was right there. Basically, he's saying, yeah, we're here, and we own this place and we run this place, and we don't really like that you're here. Basically, it's a pissing contest. Basically, they want. I keep saying basically they want to assert authority, and if you don't give them the what they want, if you don't give them the attention that they want, then they are aggressive towards you, and then they punish you, and they don't want to live in. Don't want to cohabit. They want to own and dominate. And if you are not submissive, if you do not submit to them, then they'll break you, or they'll try to break you. And if they can't break you, then they'll slander your name. And if they can't slander your name, then they'll slander your name in front of others. And if they can't do that, or they'll ruin your name and gossip about you in front of other people. And if they can't do that, then they'll physically threaten you. So that's what today's talk is about. Was been here since 2013, and all these different stages of instigation and progressive uh, um, uh, what was what how it escalation. All these different things, they progressively escalated. And when pardon me, when this threat happened a while ago, it was related to a previous incident that happened 2 years ago. So um, that shows that these people keep grudges for a long time, and they don't let go. Why did they do this to us, you may be asking? Why did they commit the crimes? Why did they commit the harassment? Why did they break into the unit? Why do they attack the phones and attack the computers? Because they own the majority of this building, and this unit is the weakest link. There's other people that live here who have been here for like 10 years, and their thinking was, well, they're just going to move in, we'll harass them, give them bad name, we'll make them look bad, we'll push them and be aggressive, and we'll get them to retaliate, and then we can get them kicked out on grounds of that they're aggressive or got problems or whatever. And then when we leave, then they do the same thing to the next person, and they continue to do this until the owner finally just gives up, and because we rent it, and then the owner can't hold the financial burden of having an empty unit all the time, and when the Anglican property manager gives him an offer, then he sells. And the Anglican property manager wants this unit. They want majority. They already have majority control of the building. There's 19 units in this building, and I think they own like 11 or 12 of them. And plus, there's a couple other units that sold after we moved in. So, anyways, so there's been a long history of harassment here, and there's been a long history of completely related to trying to gain possession of this unit. So push us out, get possession of the unit. So like I said, a long time ago, probably about over a year, maybe close to 2 years, this girl in one of the units that apparently isn't owned by the Anglicans, but I think it is, through like a dummy name or a dummy company or whatever, she leaves on a trip. She gets her friends to come in and feed her cat. But her friends ended up at my unit, and they were putting their key in to my unit. Now, this happened quite some time ago. This threat that was made to me was made by someone who knew this girl. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. On the, what was it, the 18th of June, there are a whole new crew of students that came in, and this one guy, he comes up to me, and the first time I see him, he says, "Hi." I ignored him because I ignore the Anglicans. I don't want to have anything to do with them for many reasons. But he then when he saw me ignoring him, he just rolls his eyes and shakes his head. Another time, the second time I saw him, I went to my backyard to hang laundry, and I looked down, and he looks over at me like that. I looked at him, and then he, you know, waves or whatever, and I just turned my head and ignored him. And then I look back, and he's shaking his head, in disgust or contempt. Whatever, I don't care. And then hadn't seen him before, and uh, he had made a couple gestures to me, and I let him know that I wasn't going to be intimidated by him by responding to that, and not verbally, visually, and it was all right. And I figured that he has the clue that he can't bully me around because there were other students here that tried bullying me around before, and he knows those students. So I figured, okay, he has the clue. So obviously, I've communicated that he's not going to be. I'm not going to let him push me around. And one night, I was going out. I stay up at nighttime. One day, I was going out about 5 o'clock or six. No, about 8:39, and I was taking out the trash or doing something like that, or going to my car. I was going to the car, and he comes out, and he's walking in, and I'm just at my car, and he goes, "Hey, good morning." So I said to him, I never said anything. I just looked at him, and he walked by, and he was being passive aggressive, and he smirked, cocky smirk, like a provocative cocky smirk. And so this was, I think, to insult me for being up all night, because my neighbors don't like it. They want me to sleep during the night so that they can sleep during the night because they monitor the phones. If I'm using my phone at night, then somebody has to be up to monitor it, and they prefer to be up during the day. So, anyways, I let it go, and then the week after, I think it was just like. So, what happened was the weekend that followed, um, it was the 18th. I went out and I knocked on his door and I confronted him and I said, "Hey, do you have a problem with me? Is there something that you want to say to me?" And he goes, "Oh, no, no, no." And I said, "So what was the meaning of? I think that comment you made the other night was passive aggressive, and I think it was a disrespectful comment. Like it was dark, and you came up to me and said good morning, and I took it as like an insult, as if I sleep all day, and don't do anything." And that you were trying to insult me. And he goes, "Oh no." So I explained to him what had happened in the past here, and I explained to him the bullying done by some of the people that he knew were bullying me, and I explained that to him, and I explained to him about the computer hacking or cracking, about the network cracking, about the phone cracking. I explained to him the people that were involved and the people that I thought were involved, and I explained to him how our unit was broken into, and I said, did you know any of this?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Okay, so there's been bullies here that have picked on, tried to pick, been or have been aggressive, trying to pick fights and trying to cause problems. Are you one of those people? Because if you are, if you want to test me, then we can go somewhere else, and we can do it somewhere else. But I don't want to do it here, and I'm not going to be responsible for what happens. I would rather um, deal with it verbally and get along. But if you people don't want to get along, and you guys want to be aggressive so that you can get that unit and try to push other tenants out so that you guys, the Anglican Church, can own this whole unit, then that's going to be a problem. If you don't want to get along, then maybe you want to deal with it another way." He goes, "No, no, I don't want to do that." I said, "Are you sure?" And then another guy came out, because there's always two of them. I guess it's the old saying, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am. But for these people, it's just peer pressure. It's got nothing to do with Jesus or spirituality. It's just peer pressure. So, anyways, I said to him, the new person that showed up, I said, "Well, what about you? I've already talked to you about all this, and I think that there's evidence that you still have a problem with me. So, do you want to go somewhere else? Do you want to teach me a lesson? Do you want to bully me?" And he goes, "No, no, Chris, I don't want to." So I said, "Okay." And this was Snarker. He's in the unit right next to me. I'll call him Snarker. And the first guy I'll call Craze. So Craze and Snarker, both, everything was fine. And I says, "Okay, so everything's okay." And they go, "Yeah, yeah." So everything was fine. About a short time later, on the 9th, so this happened June the 18th, and a short time later, on the 9th of July, I came back from the house. I came back from getting soup. I went out and did something, and I came back and parked my car. Now I had parked my car in the lot, and I had noticed that one of the third party people. Remember, I've said many times, there's a guy who lives here that does dirt for the Anglicans, and he's a third party person. He's not part of the school. He's not claims not to be an Anglican, but he's a dirtbag. He does bad things. He's not a good person, from what I've seen. And he has some really nasty people that, he even told me, yeah, I know lots of people that owe me lots of favors, so I can basically get anything I want. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. He said that to me when I first moved in. So this guy's like this tough guy wannabe. He apparently doesn't do anything himself. He gets other people to do it for him. So he is sitting over in the 124 parking lot, and the 124 driveway is owned by the Anglicans. The Anglicans own 124, and they own the donor house. I call it donor house on Georges River Road. It's a big, huge property that was given them. It was given to them by an old woman on her deathbed. So they own that big, huge building. They own all that property on Georges River Road. They own 124, and then they own most of this building. So this guy, let's call him DeLang Squealed. So DeLang Squealed is sitting there in his car, just parked there in the driveway of 124. Now the Anglicans own driveway 124, and I never park there for fear, not fear, but I just don't want them saying, move your car, please, because they will. But they let him park there because I think, because they have a relationship. Anglicans and him, DeLang Squealed, have a relationship. I think that he does dirt for them, for the property manager, or for whoever who, for whatever reason, harassment, or break somebody's car, do some damage off-site, threaten people, whatever, cause trouble, stir up trouble, instigate, whatever they need that the Anglicans don't want to be responsible for, don't want to be connected to. He does that. And he's done it since we've lived here. I can give you lots of examples. So anyways, he's parking his car, and I look, and he's